Good day, everyone, and you're welcome back to my applied cybersecurity research journey. So happy weekend wherever you're watching me from. Thank you once again for joining in. And again, this is a continuation to the long-term applied cybersecurity research journey that I began um, this week. I think we had our first launch a couple days ago, right? So today we're going to be diving into lab two, and the focus of lab two is on address resolution protocol, which is ARP spoofing, packet sniffing, and man-in-the-middle attacks. So now, actually, what makes this topic very fascinating is that we're not going to be looking at malware, ransomware, or advanced exploits, or anything of that like. Instead, we're going to be exploring something much simpler and in many ways could actually be very dangerous, and actually exploits trust between two say infrastructures or entities, right? So now let me just give you an introduction into this. See, computer networks are built on trust, and devices trust that information that they receive about other device. That what they are receiving is actually legitimate data. Now, what we are going to be looking at in this lab is we're going to be seeing what happens when that trust is manipulated. What we're going to be looking at. So we're going to be exploring how an attacker can actually position themselves between two communication patterns or two communication systems, right? And then how that same attacker can observe traffic that was never, meant for them, and then they're able to understand, what's happening between the legitimate two, intended parties, communication. Now, we're also going to understand why network visibility and trust validation are so much important in cybersecurity. Right. Again, a brief introduction about myself. My name's Ayomide Stephen Abiola Oyedele, and I'm a cybersecurity practitioner. And I've been in cybersecurity space for over 6 years, and I'm certified with Computer Security Plus, and also a graduate bachelor of cybersecurity from EC Council University. Right, so that's just just going back to reintroduce myself. I believe a lot of my followers already do know some of this background of mine. Now, as always, right, this session is going to be part of a broader initiative that I'm engaging on to document practical cybersecurity education through Labtainers ecosystem, while I'm exploring their lessons and other lessons that could support cybersecurity training, cybersecurity workforce development, and also cyber resilience. Now, so if you're a student or you're a practitioner or a researcher, or you're just simply, probably just transitioning, or you just stumbled upon this stream, right, and you're curious about cybersecurity, thank you for joining me on this stream. I can assure you that you would gain a lot of knowledge, and then, of course, come on, let's get started and see how a simple protocol can become a powerful attack vector. Now, so the first thing I'm going to do, as usual, is I will share my screen and then run through an overview of the lab instructional material, right, that we have for the ARP Spoof lab. And today, as opposed the initial launch, I intend to not just show you pictures, right, of the lab being solved, or that was solved by me, but I do want to like go over the lab, like redo the lab again, so you all can actually enjoy the process with me, right? I hope that makes sense. I really hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Right. Okay. So I would share my screen right about now. All right, great. Now, so this is an overview of the ARP spoofing for sniffing and man-in-the-middle attacks. And again, this lab was developed by the Labtainers framework by the Naval Postgraduate School. Now, again, I've completed this lab, right? I completed this lab, and this is the second lab out of the 76 labs that I intend to go on, to complete. Again, this is a long-term, applied cybersecurity research journey. So I'm actually documenting every of this lab, which of course would come all together to be published as a research paper. Yes, I intend to actually publish all of this lab, into a research paper, and then look at how the findings, some of the limitation, and even welcoming critiques from professionals that are already ahead of me in this field, and see how we can work together to develop and localize some of these labs, to fit Nigeria's ecosystem, right? So the overview of this lab is that the exercise actually explores the use of ARP, that is the address resolution protocol spoofing, as a means to sniff local network traffic. So the idea is, on modern switches these days do not allow Wireshark, or does not allow the visibility of network, right? When you are trying to monitor that network, especially on tools like Wireshark, right? Again, this lab is going to see how an attacker actually uses the ARP spoofing, right, to manipulate the user, and then the database, or say the web server, how he was able to manipulate, or how an attacker can be able to manipulate the ARP of these two endpoints. You have the user, which is the client, and then the server, which is the web server, right? We're going to see a network topology for this, so that would make everything I'm saying make sense. So modern local area network, which are LANs, use Ethernet switches, which prevent passive sniffing of network traffic between other components. Now, this lab assumes that you have separately learned about the ARP protocol. ARP spoofing is actually a technique that is used by the attacker to send spoofed ARP messages into the LAN, with a goal of causing traffic meant for one IP address to be routed to the attacker's computer instead. So the attacker's computer then forwards the traffic to the intended destination. So this scenario puts the attacker in the middle of the traffic exchange, and then hence we have the name man in the middle attack. So I'll just go straight to let's look at the network topology of this lab. There is a user, and then we have a switch, right? Which ordinarily doesn't allow the visibility of the traffic, right? Over LAN. Yeah. So we have also the gateway, and then we have the web server, right? And then there is the attacker. So the figure one is the intended traffic between the user and the web server. That is the normal flow. You can see the user with an IP address of 172.25.0.2, and also their MAC address as well. You can see there in hexadecimals. And then we also have the gateway with an IP address of 172.25.0.3, and then with also the media access control, which is the MAC address for that gateway. And then the attacker themselves has an address of 172.25.0, and then with the MAC address as well, as you can see. So that is the intended flow. You can see the intended flow has, from the user to the switch, and then the switch sends the traffic to the gateway then sends traffic to the web server does return back to the gateway, and then the switch, and the user gets the information, right? So ideally, in a scenario like this lab has given, where you are requesting a web page from the web server, so this is the intended flow. However, right, you can see figure two now brings the attacker into the picture, right? Where you can see from the user it goes to the switch, and then the attacker is able to get that information, take that information, send it back to the switch, and then the switch does send it to the gateway. The gateway sends it to the web server. The web server returns that information to the gateway, and then the gateway sends it back to the switch. The attacker is able to sniff from the switch, and then able to monitor, or sniff that packet, and then takes or send that packets or those packets to the destined destination, which is the user's IP address, right? Or the user as a client. So you can see all of that being illustrated there. So one thing that we have, or that you should note here, is you can see there is a difference between the IP address of the web server and the gateway, right? So you can see the gateway has the 172.25.0.3, and then the IP for the web server is 172.35.0.3. So this is very important, because once we get into this lab, this information will be very much needed. to perform the task of this lab. Now, so let's get into the let's get into performing the task of this lab, right? So I'm just going to stop sharing for 1 second while I power up the virtual machine. Like I said, I want us to do this together, as opposed the last stream where I just chose. If you want to, if you've watched or you've seen the launch, and then you want to get into the feel of how that also happened, you can write me a DM on or YouTube, make a comment, and then I would do or I would do again just like this one. I will simulate it live and how that is done. Okay. So let me get my VMware workstation up and running. And then I can let you see that screen once. So yeah, this is my workstation. It's a lab environment. It's called VMware Workstation. Again, if you want to know how to have these tools, download this tool, install them, or even import Labtainer into your VMware. Again, you can make a comment on the YouTube. I'm streaming on YouTube and on LinkedIn, so you can make comments, and then I would, walk you through or do based off your request. I'll do a walkthrough or a live presentation like this on how to get all of those done. Right. So I'm just going to power on the Labtainer right now, and I'll kind of reduce these so that we can have more visibility on the V. Also have Kali Linux as part of the machine. These are all environments where I perform my tasks. Right. Again, if you want or you need a walkthrough on how to download all of these materials and get them functional, as you can see on my screen there, just reach out to me or send me a DM or make a comment on this live stream, and then I would see that I get, I'll reach out to you, and then we can sort or get, that's right on. Okay, so again, um, um, this research journey has actually, begun, and I do pray to God to give me the strength and the grace to be committed and consistent in this. I really want to complete this lab, the whole 76 put out there and told the world that I'm going to complete. I'm doing this again to as the end goal or vision is to get a paper published and possibly even speak at conferences in again on this project, and even so many in my head, so I can make collaborations with senior professionals. And again, I have an ambition that is being driven by studying at the Naval Postgraduate School in the United States. Again, from this vision and mission is what spurs what spurred commencement of this research journey. Sometimes this can actually be one of the challenges, right? live stream where you have to log on and all that. I could have powered this earlier so as not to, while this is what we can do now is while this is coming up, let me show us the pictures, of that ones. Yeah. So actually you or ask you to do something for us. It asks you to so the attacker computer is configured that it receives or that it receives which are destined for elsewhere, right? So if you got forward IP packet, and that is why if you run this command, right, you should get a one, right? So uh, let's do that. So, do that because I can see from the background that our Labtainer a particular IP packet, forward that IP packet to a particular destination, which is elsewhere. So you can confirm that with this, right? Then the next, the task then begins. Yeah, or let me see. The task then begins and then asks you to power up one machine, and then you are initially you observe the traffic when you try to request for a web page from the user's computer. From the user's computer, you are trying to request a web page from the website, then you observe trust. Right? So this is what we initially get, right? And then after making or configuring the ARP spoof or launching that attack, then you see start share. And then we are, we are asking it to capture from the interface, right? That's one of the interfaces. There are other interfaces that you could see. Again, mastering Wireshark, knowing how to use maybe a lesson. Wireshark is just that we use in this lab. However, it is very important that you master Wireshark if you want to really be a good security analyst. You should be able to read and understand what packets are saying and what tools that help. Web request or web there's no web query or response. Again, there was no web query or response. We just saw we just saw a broad of these, and this looks like the user, right? So actually, this was the user, right? Not you can see destination as the web server's IP address right here, right? Even the source did not represent the user's IP address. It only represented its what? Its MAC address because again, this is over the LAN. You get the idea? This is LAN. It's over local area network. And like we saw from another, modern LAN switches, do not get sniffing. So that's the sense, or that's the reason we would see this right at this point. Again, right? I hope that makes sense. Okay, our machine is still coming up, right? Just give me some time. Now to task to do what? Spoof the app cache, right? Some terms of concentrate, you get some people some type of way, and then I'm going to pronounce this as cache, right? So we are tasked here to spoof the app cache on the user and the gateway or computer. Yeah, because that is we want to be the middle. Spoof their both, and then with spoofing their cache, right? What that does is not making or overloading the cache with some more data and information now, um, which is now going to make visible whatever traffic that we get. Again, we are doing this spoof from the attacker's machine, right? So you would find out that on the action on requesting the web page again, just like this command we do, right? Because of this spoof, right? Because of the spoofing that is already occurring or happening, the traffic now it's visible to the attacker. Right? command do ARP spoof dash T. We have the user's IP and then the gateway IP, and then we have it. We have that running on one terminal, and then next one is again spoofing, and then we're doing like a reverse, right? Yeah, do app spoof dash T, and then we have the gateway IP and then the user IP, right? So it's important that we do it, say simultaneously, like that, or you're doing them, concurrently, in one terminal and then another terminal, right? Now, after this proofing commences, right, app traffic even in Wireshark, right? So now we can now return to the computer and then refresh the page using the same content. Now, at this point, instead of seeing a broadcast message with just MAC addresses as we did earlier, what we now see now is what the actual TCP traffic is displayed in one, and the task also, or the lab also task us to what, to stop the capture, and then we save the capture of that traffic, right? Okay, because of the time that it's taking for, well, I intended to um, perform this lab live, right? So, but let's look at this. So this was actually the point. This spoofing, know, got initiated, right? So from the attacker's machine, as you can see here, we use this command sudo and then on this, do I have capture? No, view that traffic, right? We're able to see it like I'll say like visible, right? As opposed to how it was earlier before we ran the ARP spoof command, right? So again, and that's all about the lab. That was basically everything I did on this and then after that you finish and then you submit the lab. Enjoy more like this review. Some problems with Labtainer. I don't know why it's not coming on, but that's fine. I can understand. Sometimes some of these things happen. Initially, when I wanted to do this live review, the idea was to come up and do the live review or do like a live uh, practice on those labs, but just again for instances like this, right? Um, and then come up here to just do a review, and some of them I would do like a live walkthrough, like I wanted to do today, but I don't have the power over my system, so I can't. There are some things that are beyond my control, right? So like today is actually beyond my control to make Labtainer platform work, right? So I hope you bear with me on that for today. So I think from there I can screen, and then what I would like to display now would be I would like to display I would like to show this practical cybersecurity labs and through the lab in our ecosystem. These labs are developed, through the Naval Postgraduate School, Monterey, California, in the United States, and they are utilizing the Labtainers cyber range ecosystem. Again, it's an independent applied cybersecurity research initiative by my humble self. And this is currently a review on the second lab or lab two, and then again, it's the ARP Spoof lab. So I do really hope and that you've enjoyed yourself. So again, the vision is to build a cyber resilience, securing a safer Nigeria. The idea is to localize some of these labs, to fit Nigeria's ecosystem, and of course, um, documenting this, and I'm learning on the journey. I'm researching, and I'm also doing my bit to contribute to the cybersecurity workforce here in Nigeria. So that is that about Lab Two. Again, I have more to come. So, and I hope that you still stay tuned with me, and then always in your own little way support me. And then thank you again. Please share, like, comment, repost, and let more people get to know about this. I believe somebody might learn something, someone might get inspired, someone might get motivated, and open to collaborations. I mean, if you do have a more powerful system and maybe a stronger internet connection, because some of these things might be due to my internet connection, because I've had a lot of glitches even during this live stream. If you do have one, and then you're able to like collaborate with me, and I would just be on the stream like this to see you walk through the lab, or even do it for us, for the world to see. I would really appreciate that. Yes, so thank you again. I'm very much grateful. I appreciate everyone who is taking their time to like, comment, and even repost like the previous ones. I do indulge you to please do the same for these do the same for this particular lab, and yeah, I'll see you in the future labs. Bye for now.